everybody. Thanks for starting your day the KUAM way. I'm Sabrina Salas Matanani. You are watching Group Chat. I'm in for my colleague Chris Barnett, who is on vacation watching his daughter Sam graduate from Mills College. So, congratulations to you, Sam. I'm here at Manhita Farms with the owner, Mr. Mike Limtiaco. How are you?
I'm fine. Hi. Thanks for coming by and touring the farm.
Right. And so we're not only going to get a tour of the farm, but we are also going to be talking about the Farm to School program. It's a partnership, right, that you guys have with the Guam Department of Education?
That's correct. So over the last month or so, we've had tours from various schools. We brought the Department of Education has brought the children up here with their teachers, and we've kind of educated them on sustainability and what we do here at the farm, as well as addressing one of the issues that we have with food security and food defense on the island, which is the fact that we import majority of our produce currently, and we really need to work as a community towards having more farmers and producing more of our food locally on Guam.
And so, how did this partnership, I guess, come about between Manhita Farms and GDOE?
I believe that Department of Education was issued a grant by the USDA to explore, how we could have more of a direct from the farm to the school program. I believe there's current statute as well that exists in the Guam Code Annotated that requires DOE to purchase locally. Right? We want to support our local farmers as well, but I think more importantly, they do see the same kind of challenges with food security and of course the freshness. Right? So the logistical supply chain time frame to get produce from the west coast to Guam is 3 weeks. So you lose a lot of freshness in the produce within that transit time, as well as the fact that you have to pick these fruits and vegetables a lot earlier than before they're ripe, basically, because they're going to ripen during the transit time. Whereas a farm to school program, you really can get the fruits and vegetables to a point where they're perfect to eat and consume, within 3 to 5 days of being picked from the farm, which you're going to get the best tasting product and the freshest product.
Right, and I understand later today there's a group of students from Talifofo Elementary School that will be visiting here. What happens when they go on the tour?
Well, the first thing we do is we bring them up to the farmhouse and we talk to them about the difficulties and challenges of farming. We explain to them the economics of it too, because I think it's important that the children know where their food comes from. We talk to them about the shelf life, and then we have our nutritionists also talk to them about making sure that they're eating fresh fruits and vegetables and trying to carve out the sugary soft drinks and processed food from their diet and encourage them to eat more fruits and vegetables. And I think that what they're learning is we've had them sample some of the stuff that was just picked, and they can tell the difference. They can taste the difference in how the fruit tastes from when you buy it from stuff that's imported to when it's picked fresh from the farm.
And so tell me more now. Let's talk about Manhita Farms. You guys would have been in business for 5 years?
We've been in. We started I think we signed the lease around. It's been about 5 years now. We've been actively cultivating and farming the land for the last 3 years, and we've currently ramped up to a point where we're producing about 10,000 pounds a week of fresh fruits and vegetables. And just to kind of put that in perspective, as large as this farm is and as much as we're producing, Guam imports 600,000 pounds of produce every week. So it's really just a tiny fraction of what we really can do locally to limit the amount of produce that we import.
So how many acres is the farm?
The farm is 50 acres, and currently we have about 7 acres in full production, in full rotation. And we'll walk through some of the fields that we have going right now. And some of the operation we use to process material that's used back into the farm. So,
Right.
yeah.
You were mentioning, so this is the mulch and the composting?
Exactly.
Right,
So,
let's go over there.
yeah.
Let's go take a look at it.
So, basically, we take in green waste that cannot be tipped at the landfill, and as you know, in the media right now, we have an issue with the cells down at the Liaison landfill where they're having to fund more money to add new cells. One of the
Looking for a waste diversion.
Exactly. So one of the things that the receiver put in place early on was to not accept green waste or recyclable or reusable material. So back in, I want to say about 7 years ago, our company got into the green waste business, and we've
Mm-hmm.
been accepting green waste. And what we produce is we accept organic green waste, which is land clearing material, and watch your step here. And we take that material and we shred it and we compost it. And so what we produced is actual organic material that can be put back into the farm and help the soil replenish, the stuff that the nutrients that the plants extract from the soil.
Mm-hmm.
So we do two products. We do compost and we do wood mulch. The compost helps add nutrients back into the soil and revitalize the soil so we can plant again. And the wood mulch helps sustain moisture in the soil and helps with weed growth, because if you have a lot of weeds growing with your vegetables, it's extracting those nutrients from the plants as well. So we use the wood mulch to limit the weed growth, and we use the wood mulch to help the water that we put into the plants help those plants help the moisture be retained in the soil. So it's kind of like a it's what the receiver also envisioned, saying, hey, these products, there's a way that you can reuse them. The wood mulch can also be used in landscaping.
Right.
We color the wood mulch as well, so we sell products that, we have colored wood mulch, we have natural wood mulch, and we also have the compost available to gardeners or other farmers that may want to use it.
And that's a lot of mulch. Where do you get the wood from?
Yeah, the wood comes from various commercial operations. If you think about what we talked about, 600,000 pounds of produce coming in every week. Every one of those crates of produce is on a pallet. So we don't export a lot of items from Guam. So Guam is where pallets come to die, and so we take those pallets, we mulch them up, we take out all of the nails, and we recycle the wood mulch.
How much do you guys produce? Because this is a lot.
We produce about 2,000 tons of green waste and wood mulch every year.
Right.
Yeah.
And then again, you were mentioning that you use the wood mulch out on the farm as well as the compost. So let's go ahead and take a look at what you guys have growing. What kind of produce do you guys have here?
We have currently we have cucumber, we have upo, we have bitter melon, we have radish, we have zucchini, which is an air freighted product, which is great for Guam, right? So we actually were able to reduce the price of zucchini by about 20% because we don't have to air freight it. We have plum tomatoes, which are nice. They're larger than cherry tomatoes. We haven't yet gotten to the larger tomatoes, but we're trying to figure out what variety works best on Guam, because when you get a lot of rain and you get followed by a lot of sun, you got to figure out what species and varieties of different produce work best on the island, so that you have a healthy harvest.
I also saw over on the other side of the farm, on the board, you guys have bitter melon.
Yes.
Beans. Beans,
Yep.
right?
We
Yeah.
also have beans. Let's see, what else
What's
do we?
this? What's over here?
Good question. Let's go find out. Well, I can tell you what this is over
Oh,
here. This is zucchini.
oh, zucchini.
Yeah, and so also cucurbit. And one of the things that we also teach the students is crop rotation, right? And understanding that you have to make the soil happy too. There's certain pests and there's certain nutrients that certain crops pull out of the soil, so you cannot keep planting the same crop in that same plot all the time. So you have to rotate the fields, and so we teach them about how to do that. So what you can see here is the flowers starting to sprout from the zucchini, and you can start seeing
Oh,
this.
yeah, you can.
And the chefs on Guam love this too, because they take the flowers as well and they use it in their cooking. But yeah, this is zucchini. We also have some watermelon that's down as well. But yeah, we should start harvesting the zucchini in probably 2 weeks from now.
Nice.
Yeah.
So you don't only have a partnership with GDOE, but you also a partnership with local restaurants.
Yes, we at one point in time, one of our biggest clients for the zucchini flowers was the Hyatt. The chef at Al Dente really loved incorporating them into his dishes, and we sell mainly to Payless at this point, because they've given us a commitment. One of the things that local farmers struggle with is having to manage not only farming but also the marketing and the sales aspect of farming. as well as the distribution. And that's really tough, when you're out here for 12 hours a day in the sun trying to farm, and then you have to figure out how to get your produce to where it's being sold. That's a challenge. So one of the things that Manhita Farms has done is partnered with Payless, where they handle the distribution and the sell side, so the farmers don't have to worry about that, and they just focus on farming, and so they're better at it, and Payless is better at selling it. And once we get all of the crops into full rotation, so at one point in time, our goal is to have 30 acres out of the 50 acres dedicated to just individual 1 acre plot fields. And then we will go out to Cost-U-Less and to IDI and to all of the wholesalers and say, because we want to also make sure that they have a good supply chain, because that's one of the challenges that wholesalers and other retail locations have, is that they need to plan their supply chain, and it needs to be consistent. So they need to expect that they're going to get a certain amount of pounds every week, so they can plan and make sure that there's produce on their shelves for their customers. So if a farmer commits to it, we want to make sure that they can rely on it. Otherwise, the customers of these locations are out of product, and their goal is to have product on the shelf that their customers have expectations of going into their stores and being able to purchase what they want. So as we progress and as we get better at it, that's the goal, is to be able to supply all of the wholesalers and retailers on Guam.
And speaking of Payless, I did see representatives here. They're also a part of the program with GDOE.
Yeah, Payless has a lot of good programs going on their nutritional side, as well as I don't know if you've ever seen their Tsagi post on Facebook,
Yeah.
but they basically, put out informationals on how to make chicken kelaguen or steak kelaguen. And so they have a nutritionist on staff as well, and they're here today to kind of point out to the students, hey, stop eating processed food. This is important in your diet. This is what you should focus on eating. They talk about how to differentiate between the colors of the fruits and vegetables, and what nutrients they add to the diet. So yeah, so let's go figure out what's
there you
on.
go.
This is Mr. Lin.
Hi,
Mr.
Mr.
Lin
Lin.
is one of our farmers here that is probably the most productive farmer we have on the farm right now. He truly knows what he's doing, and he shows the plants love, and that's why we've been able to produce 10,000 pounds a week consistently.
So, Mr. Lim, what
Come
are
on
these
over,
plants?
Mr. Lin. Cucumber.
Oh, this is cucumber. Okay.
Yeah, let's take a
Okay.
look. We've tried various types
nice.
of cucumbers. We've done trellis types, and we also done a crawling type as well. It's like watermelon, where you and the mulch really worked well for that type of cucumber. So we lay out mulch in between the different planting rows, and basically it just crawls like cucumber. A watermelon would, and they basically lay on the mulch instead of being trellised up. The trellis does really well. It produces a prettier vegetable than the vine growing one, because they don't get bruised up. But when the winds come too, they can damage the crop. That's the one disadvantage of the trellis type cucumber.
How long you been farming?
Me 10 years.
10 years.
Yeah,
Nice,
10 years.
nice. Is it harvest time?
Yes.
It is.
Yeah,
Okay.
we're currently producing or harvesting cucumber as well as tomatoes, and we can walk over the tomato fields as well.
Okay. Where is it?
Tomato fields are on the farther end over there. But let's walk over to what's on the ground now.
Okay.
Mr. Lin, what is over there now? Watermelon? Eggplant. Okay.
All right.
Water? Okay.
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 Great looking cute. I think something flew in my mouth.
Yeah, when these. Yeah, I don't see any large zucchini yet, but man, you guys got to try these zucchini. They're really good.
Trying to turn my
Yeah, so the other thing that we're trying to do is, make sure that we have a variety of fruits and vegetables, because one of the things that hurts our farming industry is when everybody, there's a couple of products that grow really well on Guam: cucumber, eggplant, watermelon. They all grow really well during certain times of the season. But if all of our farmers are planting it, it really affects the market, right? So there's an economic impact to farming as well, because when you have a high supply of one product, right, it drops the price, right? Because the demand doesn't change, right? So the demand is consistent, but if the supply fluctuates, up and down, that's what affects the prices of a lot of these the produce. So we really do need to diversify what we plant on Guam, so that we can also make sure that those who are farming, they can make a living doing it.
Right. And so some of the things that you grow here, is it year round
There are
or
some
certain
things,
seasons?
yeah, there are some things that grow really well year round, but there are some things that are very specific to the dry season. So, like watermelon, for example, watermelon you can only plant during the. Thank you, Mr. Lin. Watermelon you can only plant during the dry season effectively, unless you go through great lengths to uh, mitigate the water impact when it does rain. So that means you'd have to cover it, and you'd have to, the moisture is an issue. So I there are some things that grow really well. Cucumber can almost be grown year round. Eggplant as well. Tomatoes, but tomatoes too, they don't like a lot of rain certain times. If there's too much rain followed by a lot of sun, they burst, and they fill up with water, and then when the sun hits them, they explode.
So
So it's
this is
this is eggplant.
okay.
Yeah, this is eggplant, and this is a staple here on Guam. It grows really well. It's easy to grow, but once again, right? If we all focus on what's easy to grow, it really affects the economics of farming, and that I think that's why you see our shift, in our culture. Guam used to just grow everything, right? Everything that we needed, before the ships used to come, our parents, our grandparents, they used to just grow it. And we need to get back to that, because we do have a food safety issue, in the sense, and a sustainability issue. If the supply chains were cut off on Guam, Guam maybe could go a week. I mean, you've seen it, right? When the
Yeah.
ships are late, right?
Yeah.
The shelves at
There's
Payless
not
are
this, there's
and
not that,
Kashiles
right?
are pretty barren.
And
So
so you talked about the whole economics, right? And so and about how you want to compete with other farmers.
mhm.
So is there, I guess, how do you guys communicate with each other about making sure that there's not this oversupply of certain fruits and vegetables?
Well, that's a challenge, and I think it'll always be a challenge until we become more mature as an industry. So we used to be very good at it. Then we started importing everything, and a lot of farmers just focus on what can guarantee a good crop. So, like during dry season, they know for sure if they do everything, if everything goes right, they can have a profitable harvest. There's a lot of risk involved with trying other crops, like zucchini, for example. Our first crop on the first field that we did it, beautiful, right? And we didn't have to deal with the pests that like to eat that type of zucchini. The next couple of harvests, we found that, okay, there's been some, pest issues with it that did not produce a good harvest. So, farmers, when they lay down a full field of produce, they've put a lot of their costs and a lot of labor into it, and if it goes bad, they don't have any revenue for it. So it's a risk. So when we put in crops like that aren't normally grown on Guam, as a Manhita, we're taking the risk to do it because we know we'll fail. We got to get back up and try again, and figure out a way to make it successful, and we finally have. And it's also finding the right varieties that just work well. So we're experimenting with different types of varieties of the same produce, different types of seeds to see what works best. And so, but to answer your question is, we do have to mature as an agricultural industry to figure out how to get everybody on the same page so everybody can make a living doing it. And we feel that we're going to try and be leaders in that industry by diversifying and making sure that we're not just producing cucumbers that just drop the price down to where
Right.
people can't make money.
So what do we have over here?
We have beans over here.
Okay.
You can go take a look at this one, and then we have green onions on the next row.
Hi. Good morning.
This long bean.
Long beans.
This is what goes in your tomato.
this one perhaps like this one.
Yeah. Did you already harvest? Is that why, or not yet?
Oh no, there's some right here. Right there.
There you go. Yeah,
Oh,
there you go.
okay.
Yeah, so wherever you see the flowers, that's where they will start. The fruit will start, or vegetables will start. Yeah.
And you guys have a lot of long beans.
We do. When this starts to produce, and we can get per row, we can get 80 pounds, 100 pounds out of just this one row, one side of the field. So that's a lot of tinactac.
Yeah.
And then on the next field we can walk over is the green onions.
Green onions. Okay. Just. Yeah. You guys also supply, right? The GDOE, the vegetables here. Is that, or it's to their.
That's what we're working towards.
I
The
see.
thing with GDOE is GDOE has a very specific USDA meal reimbursement requirement. That means that they have to consistently have certain menu items um, to provide to the students in order to get that reimbursement. So they're
see.
very critical on how what they plan for their supply chain, because if they don't meet those requirements, they don't get reimbursed. So one of the challenges that they've had with local farmers is consistency. They need to make sure that they have those products in the school cafeterias or on the food service providers' cafeterias to make sure that they meet those USDA requirements. And so they're at risk if they don't meet those requirements. And so unless they can get a consistent harvest from a farmer, they're less prone to take risks from there. So they just make sure that they utilize the current imported market because it's consistent. So I think once Guam gets to the point where the farmers can provide consistent harvest and provide DOE whatever they need to meet the USDA meal reimbursement requirements, that DOE will shift to it. But it's almost like a business for them as well. In order to maintain that USDA meal reimbursement, they need to ensure that their supply chains are solid in order to do that. And currently, local farmers are unable to meet that consistency. Yeah, and then it goes back to the season too, right? If GDOE needs melons or watermelon year round, Guam only produces it during the dry season. So that we got to figure out where else in the world is summer and dry season, and that's where you import it from.
And what's this one right here? Is that also cucumbers?
Yeah, that's a spent crop. So we've already harvested, and that's spent. So that's in the rotation now. So we'll take that down. We'll take all of the green waste from it, including the fruits that are hanging from there, and we'll recompost it and turn it right back into the soil when the compost is mature.
Do you know what's gonna go there after this, or is it up to the?
It will not be a cucurbit. So anything can go there other than that species. So a non-cucurbit plant can go there. And what that does is it extracts different nutrients from the soil. It helps replenish the soil as well. And you can see also some compost over by that canopy. Once that field is done, we'll reincorporate compost, add nutrients back in, and then lay down the next set of seedlings.
Well, as we wrap this up, there was one thing I wanted to mention, to talk about real quickly, was the fact that you guys, on the perimeter
Yeah.
of the fence here at the farm, you guys make an effort to preserve some of our indigenous plants.
Yes. So Manhita Farms is a forestry steward. So in conjunction with USDA and USDA grants, we've isolated a 50-foot perimeter around the entire farm for native reforestation, and we actually put in our own labor. USDA, the Department of Agriculture, provides the native plants, and we put our own labor into planting those native plants, and we can walk over there
Okay.
and take a look at it.
Over here?
We-
Over here? Okay.
So we put our labor into following the Department of Ag's requirements, and we plant those native plants here. And these are great because at one point in time, we envision opening up a nature trail for the residents of the area. They can come in here and walk through the reforestation area. We lay down mulch, so it's a nice area. They can jog, they can walk. So we do envision opening it up to the public so they can enjoy it. But yeah, so this area right here, where these types of plants that you see over here, these are all native plants determined by Department of Ag, and this is the mulch that we produce here, and it helps these plants, you know, take all of the nutrients out of the soil rather than compete with with weeds and stuff like that. So the entire perimeter, if you can envision it when it's mature, maybe 10 years from now, it'll be a nice place for joggers and people to walk through and enjoy it. But we've designated 50 feet along the entire perimeter of the 50-acre property just for stewardship program for the native reforestation.
Well, any final comments you'd like to make about Manhita Farms?
Um, just that, support your local farmers, not just us, every local farmer out there. If you're a individual gardener, we welcome you to come by and take a look at the products that we offer as well. They are for sale, and they're very good prices. The mulch, for example, sells for $5 for a pickup truck, a standard pickup truck load, which is more than enough for any, even a large gardener. The compost sells for $39, and that's for a full truckload as well, which is more than enough to get your gardens up to par with nutrients. We also, can provide you some information on what works well for us so that you can be a successful home gardener as well. But I'd like to end by just saying buy local, support your local farmers, and let's try and reverse the trend of importing produce to producing it locally.
All right, thanks a lot, Mike.
Thank you. Appreciate
owner
it.
of, I'd shake your hand, but it's full. The owner of Manhita Farms. Thank you for what you guys are doing for the local agricultural community as well as with your partnership with the Guam Department of Education. I'm Sabrina Salas Matanani. Thanks for starting your day the KUAM way.